If you're planning a South America cruise, you have a dilemma. The best sites, like Iguazu Falls and the vineyards of Mendoza, are hundreds of miles inland. You can't really see them properly from the ship. Most people just fly home. We didn't. We built a cruise sandwich. We took an Azamara cruise to Argentina, spent 14 days crossing the continent with Firebird Tours, and then linked it perfectly to an Oceania cruise in Peru to sail home. In this video, we're showing you the logistics, from the $800 luggage mistake we avoided to the specific wineries we visited that made the land portion just as good as the cruise itself. Stick around to the end and I'll share our detailed cost breakdown. So really quickly, we want to explain to you what we were able to do in each of these cities, just to give you an idea of what you're able to see in such a short amount of time. So the top bun of our sandwich was actually our cruise that went from Barbados, explored Brazil, and then ended up in Buenos Aires. But we knew we didn't want to go home. We knew we wanted to see South America, but there were two big reasons that were kind of holding us back originally. The first is that we don't speak Spanish, and the second is we wanted to feel safe, which we know is a concern here.
Yeah, so that's why we hired Firebird Tours to put a tour together for us, and they did a great job. We walked off the ship, there was a guy standing there with our name on a sign, and he took us to the hotel, and everything worked out great.
Yeah, so the hotel was the 474 Buenos Aires. My requirements from Firebird, I basically told them I wanted 3- and 4-star hotels, that were in safe districts, and we wanted breakfast included just for ease and trying to make it as similar to an all-inclusive cruise experience as possible.
Yeah, the hotel was in the theater district. It was a very walkable area. We felt very safe in this area. So it was a great choice by Firebird.
Yeah, so the next day, our guide and driver showed up, and the exploration was of the north.
Yes, so we started in Plaza de Mayo. A lot of history there. They had a memorial to the people who died from COVID. And there was also the changing of the guards we saw on San Martin's tomb in the cathedral.
Yep. And then we got to go to Recoleta Cemetery. And I just want to add a quick note here, because I've seen other videos that are kind of lamenting the fact that the cemetery is not well maintained. And I want to correct that, because we spent some time talking to our guide about this. The mausoleums, those particular areas, are owned by families. Those families pay a monthly fee to the government. It's not cheap. And many times over time, the families may not have that income anymore, especially with some of the crazy things that have been going on with Argentine finances. And then they fall into disrepair because the families are responsible for maintaining them. They get repossessed, and then they move the remains, and then someone can come along and buy that property. We saw a lot of new builds, either that were completed or were in the process of being completed. So just know that when you get to go there. But we got to see Eva Perón's grave.
Yeah, that was really cool. People leave memorials there. Part of the memorials, we found out there was these little strips of paper, and they turned out to be voting receipts. So people, because he was such an advocate for women's voting, people to this day, when they vote, women leave their ticket there as a thank you.
It was really cool. We then went to the Palermo district just to check that out, and she took us to the kind of world famous Guerin's for lunch, which they're known for pizza and empanadas. Had lots of those during this trip. And then we went to the Teatro Colón.
Yes. That was a very beautiful theater, opera house. Unfortunately, they didn't allow you to take any videos, so we have photographs
but we
from there.
did. The tour itself was actually included. That was part of Firebird.
Yeah.
So the
everything that
everything's
we did
all
was
paid.
included.
You just sort of, okay, we're going here next. So it was really nice. So, and then they took us back to the hotel so we could have just a little bit of a rest. And we had a big evening.
Yes, and then we went to a tango show.
And dinner.
Yeah, I didn't really think that was going to be that much fun, but it turned out to be a really cool event.
Yeah. Okay, so on day 2, the same driver, different guide, but her specialty was the South.
Yeah. So we started at La Boca Stadium, where the Boca Juniors play. Yeah. World famous, great stadium.
And right around there, the Caminito area where you see all the colorful buildings, she talked a lot about immigration and the history of the area and the schools. And this is grittier. This is grittier than the north side.
Yeah, but it was a
really
great vibe, though. I really love this area.
She also then took us over to Puerto Madero, which is kind of the more modern waterfront area. She talked to us about, a lot of the history and the water flow and trying to get ships in there and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And then we ended up in San Telmo, which was actually really cool, super popular. Got to go to the market, which was very busy. Yes. And we also got to see some of we stepped into what used to be homes that are now collections of shops, but you can still see the architecture of the homes, including fountains and stuff. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, then we had lunch at an English pub called San Nicolas. They kind of keep it the same kind of feel. All the different restaurants in that area are kind of authentic.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of doing these tours the way that we did. We got to see everything that we wanted to see in 2 days. We didn't have to worry about tickets or driving or anything else. It was very comfortable. North, south, tango, history, all wrapped up into a bow. So
yeah. And then the next day we were off to Iguazu Falls.
Yeah. So this is where we had issues with our bags. We had originally talked to Firebird about having DHL ship our bags from Buenos Aires over to Lima, and we had separated out one bag that was just our kind of cruise wear that we weren't going to need. And when they came back with the pricing, which they said we'd be able to work with the front desk at the hotel, it was $800.
Yeah, that's a little bit too much.
It was a little bit steep. So we looked at a couple of different ways to get it over there, and it was just ridiculous. So in the end, what worked for us was rebalancing out the bags, and we flew premium economy. Honestly, all the flights were now premium economy in South America, so we could just easily get our bags. But there were other reasons to do that. First of all, the priority boarding, deplaning as well, getting to customs first and through immigration, not having to wait in those long lines because we had drivers waiting on us, also getting a meal it was just a big, for not a whole lot of extra money, it was a big benefit for us, access to lounges and things like that. So with that said, there's a way to do it, premium economy. If you've got heavy cruise bags, you might be able to make that work. We could have done Iguazu Falls through a cruise ship tour, but they were really expensive, and you've got this complicated having to take a flight out and back in the same day, so you just get really limited time. So having a full day out there was really important to us, and we really enjoyed it. I will say that we flew Aerolíneas Argentinas, and that we were impacted by a pilot strike, just about 2 hours. These happen all the time, we're told. So the advice from Firebird was just book your flights as early as possible in the day so that you've got a chance to catch up with the rest of the day. And then lastly, when we got out to the falls, of course, our driver was there waiting, as has become the theme. And we were taken, the hotel that they booked was the Mercure, which was in the jungle. It was not in the city of Iguazu, which is a little bit of a distance from the park itself. So it's a lot closer to the park, and it's beautiful. It was beautiful.
It was a great hotel.
Yeah.
And that same day, our guide for the falls texted us and said, we need to meet earlier. It's going to be really hot. And instead of 8 o'clock, let's meet at 7 o'clock. We'll get to the falls and we'll beat the crowd. And it worked perfectly. Once we got in the park and on the train, our guide said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to beeline it out the devil's throat. We're not going to stop and look at anything. We're going to go straight out there. And it's a good thing we did, because we got out there and there wasn't hardly anybody there. So we had the perfect shots, the perfect views. Everything was wonderful. And he said, we're going to take our time coming back so you can see everything that you missed when you were walking fast. And it worked great. And the falls were really cool. There's like 275 different individual drops. The falls are wider than Victoria Falls, and they're taller than Niagara Falls. So they're really nice falls.
Yeah, so special. It was a special day. We did both the upper loop and the lower loop, so we got a good 5-6 miles in. And he was right about the crowds. All these tours from Gate 1 and different cruise ships, they all had like 50 to 80 people in them, and really you could hardly get through certain areas. So it was a brilliant plan that we can.
And so we were on the train walking to the exits at about 12 o'clock. So right when it was starting to get really warm, and there was just thralls of people coming in too. So.
Yeah. But even so, next up is Mendoza.
We landed in Mendoza. Our driver was waiting for us. Took us to the hotel. The hotel was the Villaggio. It was in a great area, but the hotel itself was not so great. It was a bit dated. It had some power problems. So, like, we tried to make coffee with the hot pot. The hot pot wouldn't boil. It would just shut off. And Leah's hairdryer would run for about 30 seconds and then shut off. We tried enough different hair dryers, same problem. So we can recommend Mendoza, but probably not this hotel.
I would stay someplace closer to Independence Square.
Yeah.
A lot more going on there.
Yeah.
So we built in a rest day, just one, to get some rest, but two, we needed to do laundry, and we found a lavanderia that was maybe 0.3 miles. It was totally walking distance. We used Google Translate, and we were able to get a bag of laundry washed and folded the next day.
$10?
It was like $10. Yeah, it was awesome. And she was great, right? Yeah. You can find these people on Google Maps, but it was fabulous. So we got that done. And then the next day was one of my favorite days of the whole trip. We went out to the countryside. It was a small group tour. So there were just 6 people in a beautiful van, and we went to 4 different wineries. So we'll go through them really quick. The first was Alta Vista, the first one that we went to.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. The second one was my favorite, and it was Benigues. And this is one of the only wineries that are still owned by an Argentinian family. And they actually didn't have it for a while. They got it back. In the 70s, a lot of these wineries had to sell off to corporations due to the economic crisis that they had there. So it's kind of special. There's a museum there. It was really beautiful. And the Malbecs, my God, the Malbecs were amazing. Our next stop was the Terraza de las Andes, and we had a tasting, but it was with lunch. So this was our organic lunch stop, and it was a
great lunch.
Yeah, it was fabulous. And then we made the last one was our least favorite, but it was very quick at Casarina. It was kind of a walking wine tour. It was quick. It was like 20 or 30 minutes. The wine was good, and they were it was very rushed. And like I said, you were standing and they would pour your wine and then you're walking to this next part. So that was a little bit, but all in all, it was a beautiful day. Mendoza is stunningly beautiful. You could definitely stay longer than we did. But anyway, next up, Santiago. All right, so now it's time to leave Argentina, and we are headed to Santiago, Chile. So this was our first international flight leaving Argentina. We were not impacted by any strikes on this day, so that was nice. We flew LATAM Airlines, premium economy, no issues with bags and weight. We had a meal on the way over and some of the most incredible views of the Andes Mountains. Yeah, what a beautiful flight. We got through customs, immigration, and our driver was waiting there for us, as is the theme of the day. And we were taken to the Regal Pacific Hotel. This was in the financial district. There was lots of stuff around to do, many little shops for snacks and restaurants. And great little area. Little area.
Yeah, so then the next day, our guide met us at 9 o'clock in the morning. We had the same guide for 2 days in a row. She was awesome. She's very proud of her city. She took us first. We started out in the historic area where they had a lot of government buildings. She talked a lot about how the government in Chile works.
We even got to go in the Supreme Court building.
Yes, yeah. And
big
there was a big case going on at the same time. So then she stopped at this. We were walking along, and there's this little empanada restaurant, tiny little hole in the wall. And she says, "Oh, we have to go in here. My grandfather used to take me here." And we had seafood empanadas. It was a great experience. Then we went to the town square, where there was a lovely cathedral that we visited. Then we were off to St. Lucia Hill with some great views, and it's very historic up there also. And then we took a funicular up a mountain. And when we got up to the top of the mountain, she was again trying to get us to try her favorite treats. And it was called mote, and it was a kind of a sweet tea tasting drink with a peach in the middle of it and some barley at the bottom. And she says, everybody in Chile drinks mote, and you have to try this. So we did. It was pretty good.
The cable car ride, though, was was a big highlight. This park that's kind of in the middle of the city is also, the zoo is there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. There's just so much to do
And
there.
they're going to continue to build the cable car. It was quite a lengthy ride.
Yeah.
But and then after that, we toured a couple smaller neighborhoods that she wanted us to see, and then we had dinner where she recommended the name of the restaurant was
La Tasca de Altamar.
Yes.
And we'll put the name in here because it was that good.
It was it was a
that
good restaurant. Highly recommended.
Yeah. So then, obviously, that was a very long day, but she came back to get us the next day.
Yep.
And we did a trip out to Valparaiso. So it was about an hour and a half to 2 hour drive. She did stop at a little shop that she said her grandparents used to stop at when they were headed out to the countryside. We've got this little basket of pastries. And again, her and the driver both very proud of where they live and wanted to share all the little special things. So we went out to Valparaiso, and Valparaiso for us was very different than what we expected. It's very bohemian, very gritty. I mean, look at these beautiful murals. So it's like this artist enclave of people who come here to I guess, get discovered and sell a lot of their artwork. So we were walking the hills for a while. We went down to the town square. We saw the changing of the guard. And then she drove us over to Vina del Mar.
Yeah, very
and what
ritzy area.
Ritzy area, beautiful resorts and beaches. I mean, you could see us staying there for a couple of weeks at some point. I mean, just look at the beach. It was beautiful. And then we had lunch at a little restaurant called Matcha. And then another just incredible experience. We started our drive back. We were on the outskirts of Santiago, and we went to a winery called Matetic Winery, which they're very much focused on biodynamics.
Yes.
And we had a private, 2-hour tour going all over the vineyard, the property.
Huge property.
They even had a fowl farm with chickens and ducks and all kinds of birds that actually eat the bugs and stuff that bother the vines. And I mean, it was just...
everything they had a purpose.
Mm-hmm. It was just incredible. They walked us through all their processes on making compost, and it was just incredible to have that private, we could ask all the questions that we wanted. It was amazing. And then we sat down to a tasting and had a lovely tasting. And then they brought us back. So we had 2 solid, very informative, fun days in Santiago. But now it is time to go to Lima to catch the cruise ship. So Lima was, so it was an international flight. It's going from Chile to Peru.
LATAM again.
And we flew premium economy. So we actually had, and since it was international, we had access to the Santiago LATAM lounge.
Yeah, that's very nice. One of the nicest, lounges I've been in. Delta could take a few pointers from LATAM.
It was, we had a really nice lunch. Flight was uneventful. We got into Lima, and thank God the driver was waiting for us there, of course, as always. But
yeah, it was a little tense. There was a lot of traffic, a lot of people walking. A couple people banged on the side of the car while we were driving.
Very gritty area. Yeah. I think it's the no travel zone of Lima. You're not allowed to go there. So
it took us a while. It took us about 45 minutes to get from the airport to the hotel, and it was kind of a tense ride. Yeah.
And we've been to Lima before. We've done tours before. So this trip was really about getting ourselves to Lima so that we could board the bottom part of our cruise sandwich here, which was the Oceania Vista that is going to take us up to San Diego. So Lima was not really about tours and that. So next up, we want to cover just a quick, we're just going to call it tips and tools really quickly about traveling and things that we learned. We put little notes in each of the cities, but first of all, don't take your flashy jewelry on this into South America. Just don't do it. We had people who had, a necklace ripped off their neck. I mean, just don't bring it if you don't have to. If you've got a smaller wedding ring or something that's not flashy, that's what I've been doing, wearing that all week if I have it. Watches, bracelets, anything that's gold or whatever, the guides all tell you, just don't bring it if you don't have to. Don't wear it. Most of our hotel rooms had safes, but even then, I probably just wouldn't bring it. Bring costume jewelry. The other thing, you cannot get Argentinian pesos in advance. You actually have to do that in country. Once you convert your money, you can't convert it back. So you only want to convert what you need.
And the rate changed every day we were there.
Mm-hmm. You need $100 crisp, $100 crisp bills. So brand new. They cannot have any markings. They cannot have any flaws. They'll pick through them, and you've got to, so bring a few. If you walk down Florida Street, which is kind of the common shopping district, you'll hear people saying cambio, cambio, cambio. And we did have some cruisers think that those people were begging. They're not begging. They're trying to help you get your money exchanged. But what we were told by several locals was just go to a Western Union or a Western Union affiliate. They were we saw them in many different places. Yeah. Do not go down any kind of back alley with somebody. Just look for the Western Union. Make sure you have your crisp $100 bills, and you can get your money. We actually just converted 100 and then 100 again later on in the week, and we spent exactly all that.
Yeah. So it worked out really well for us.
Yeah.
Okay, one other safety precaution we took while we were in South America. We used it in Rio, in Buenos Aires, and a couple other cities. Was this tether? Basically, if you have a case on your phone, there's a little insert that you can click this tether on to your phone and then onto your belt loop, and nobody can grab your phone or pickpocket your phone.
Yeah, and you can get these on Amazon. I mean, mine's a little more industrial, but I wanted something that had the retractable with the magnet.
So this made us feel a lot better. And we also used it in the fall so we didn't drop our phones in the water.
It's important. Yeah. So the last thing we want to share with you is how we found the second cruise that was going to get us back. You've probably heard us talk about Cruise Plum before, which is it's a website, wonderful database for researching cruises and prices around the world. But once we realized that we wanted to traverse South America before we even put the entire schedule together, we used Cruise Plum to look at the west coast of South America for cruises starting or stopping there that would be heading north. So if you haven't, we'll put the web link up. It's free. I mean, we don't own them or anything, but it's free. But it's a really good research tool, and you can filter down to cruise lines you want to include and all that. So it's just a database. But that is how we found the Oceania Vista. It's on its world cruise and happens to be going up to San Diego, which gets us near enough to be 45 minutes from home. So when you're building your cruise sandwich, that can be a really helpful tool. Yeah. Okay, now on to the fun part, the cost. So Firebird does a one price option. So once you have everything put together, you get one lump sum. And our price was $12,904 for this 2-week trip. I want to break this down so you know exactly what all that included for us. It breaks down to $921 per day, or $460 per person per day. We visited 5 different cities, as we've shown you, and there are the number of nights that we stayed in each city. Know that I asked for 1 rest day in Mendoza and a rest day in Santiago, and Lima, second day, was boarding a ship. So there's a little bit of time in there where we did not have anything planned, but basically 13 nights in hotels. They were all 3 to 4 star hotels, including breakfast rate. There were 4 flights, all of them in premium economy, so we could deal with our cruise bags. We had private transfers from everywhere, from the ship to the hotels, from the hotels to the airport, airport to hotels. Everywhere we went, we had somebody picking us up and taking us there. We also had all of the private tour guides that we reviewed in each of the sections. So there was only one tour that was a group tour. It was a small group tour, and that was out to the 4 wineries in Mendoza, and there were just 6 people in it. It was great fun because everybody was from all over the world. All of our entrance fees were included, whether that was a museum, the tour at the Teatro Colón. I mean, we did not, unless we were getting a snack or like a little extra something to eat or drink, we didn't pay for anything. It was all taken care of when we were on our tours. And then best of all, there's pretty much a hotline and an app that we use through Firebird. So if we had any issue, we had a little bit of confusion in one city where the tour guide sent me the itinerary and it was just not the one that was agreed to. And so I just simply sent it off to Firebird. They contacted the vendor, they got everything squared away, and it was taken care of. So having that support pretty much round the clock wherever we were was absolutely fantastic. As always, what are the ways to save? You could still use a company like Firebird, and I want to differentiate something that they do. Firebird builds custom trips. So I know they have other services as well, but we could have used like a gate one. I know they have different levels of tours, but the problem is that the dates are set. And for us, we were trying to build our cruise sandwich. It just didn't work as far as the directions that they were doing these trips and all the different places they were going. And some of them were going to Patagonia. Like I said, we wanted to build something that was very custom for us. But ways to save, of course, you could lower your standards on hotels, right? You could say, I'm fine with a 2-star hotel. You could take out the breakfast rate for, you could do economy flights instead of premium economy. You could do the tours on your own through Viator and just use them for some of the other logistics and getting around. You could do group tours, right? Instead of having everything be private. And last, you could use Uber or taxi drivers versus the private drivers that we had. But I think when you get down to the per person per day rate, it's very similar to the cruises that we take in price, and everything was taken care of. And our goal was to have them be a little more similar than being kind of on our own land. So lastly, we're a small channel. Please subscribe and hit notifications if you want to continue to see our materials. If there's any questions that you have on any of this, let me know, or leave a comment. Have you done one of these before? And if so, what's the most creative one you put together? We appreciate you watching and coming along with us.